It was supposed to be the perfect place to study. Quiet, isolated. Just me, my books, and an old house that nobody'd gone near in years. Nobody warned me about the painting, and by the time I figured out what was wrong with it, it was already too late to look away. My dad got transferred the spring I was cramming for my medical entrance exam. Not to another city, to a small town. One of those places where everyone knows everyone, the gas station doubles as a post office, and the whole town shuts down by 9. We moved in right away, no choice, and the timing couldn't have been worse. My exam date was already locked in. My sister's wedding was already planned, and somehow, impossibly, they landed on the exact same day. My family couldn't postpone the wedding. Deposits had been paid. Relatives had booked flights from 4 different states, and I couldn't miss the exam. I'd been studying for 2 years straight, so my parents did the only thing they could. They told me to forget everything else and just focus on studying. Great idea in theory. In practice, nearly impossible. Our new place was a circus. My cousins were already rolling in. Aunts were debating flower arrangements at the top of their lungs. And every time I cracked open a book, somebody needed something from the room I was sitting in. I tried the local library. That was worse. A group of guys I'd barely met, real pieces of work, honestly, had basically colonized the place. They weren't there to study. They sat around all day, goofing off, giving me grief whenever I tried to get anything done. I was running out of time and running out of options. My exam was only a couple weeks out, and I had barely touched half the material I needed. I started losing sleep. I started snapping at people. My dad noticed. He didn't say much, just got real quiet the way he does when he's working something out. A couple days later, he came to me with a solution. A buddy of my dad's knew about a place. An old government house sitting at the edge of town, past the grain silos, down a gravel road that barely showed up on maps. Nobody'd lived there in years. His friend had a key. He handed it over, but not before pulling me aside and looking me dead in the eye. "You can study there," he said. "It's quiet. It's perfect. But you have to promise me one thing." He waited, making sure I was listening. "No matter what, no matter how much studying you've got left, you get out of that house before dark." He didn't explain why. I didn't push. I was desperate enough that I just nodded, took the key, and figured I'd deal with it. Looking back, I should have asked a whole lot more questions. The first week out, there was exactly what I needed. The house sat alone on a flat stretch of land surrounded by dead fields and dry trees with no leaves left on them. The kind of trees that look like they're reaching for something. No neighbors, no noise, just the wind and the creak of the old wood frame walls. I'd spread my books out on the floor of what used to be a sitting room, get my notes organized, and study for hours without a single interruption. I made it back before dark every single day. I told myself the warning was nothing. Small town superstition, old people being dramatic. By day 6, I'd covered more material than I had in the previous 3 weeks. I was starting to feel like maybe things were going to be okay after all. Day 7 changed everything. That 7th morning, I noticed something I'd somehow missed all week. Right there on the wall behind where I sat to study, a painting, portrait of a woman. I don't know how I'd gone 6 full days without really looking at it. She was beautiful in the way old portraits sometimes are. Formal, composed, painted with fine detail. Dark hair pinned up, a high-collared dress, eyes that were dark and steady and completely still. The Resident Evil 2026 trailer had dropped that week. I'd watched it a couple times on my phone before bed. All those scenes of abandoned buildings and something moving wrong in the dark. I remember thinking, half joking to myself as I opened my books that morning, this place would be a perfect location scout for a horror film. Zach Kreger would love it. I laughed it off, settled in, started reading, and I didn't think about the painting again. First, by mid-morning, something felt off. I glanced at my phone. It was almost noon. I looked down at my notes. I was still on the same page I'd started on at 8 in the morning. Nearly 4 hours had passed and I hadn't moved. I could have sworn I was studying. I remembered the feel of the pen in my hand, the sense of reading, but the page was blank. Nothing written, nothing retained. I felt this low-level dread start creeping up from somewhere I couldn't name. I looked around the room. Everything was exactly the same as when I'd walked in. The light through the window, the dust on the floor, and the painting on the wall watching. I made myself look away, pulled my knees up, pressed my pen to paper, and forced myself to focus. I told myself I'd just zoned out. I told myself I was tired. I was wrong on both counts. I was staring at the page, genuinely staring this time, forcing the words to stick when I felt it. Not a sound, exactly. More like a shift in the room. The way the air feels right before a storm, that quiet electric pressure. I told myself, don't look up. Whatever you do, don't look at the painting. So of course I looked. The woman in the portrait was in exactly the same position as always. Same dark eyes, same composed expression. But I had this overwhelming, bone-deep certainty. I can't explain it any other way, that a split second before I looked up, she had been smiling. Not a pleasant smile. The kind of smile you never want to see on a face that isn't supposed to move. I blinked. I pressed my palms flat on the floor. I said out loud to no one, "You're freaking yourself out." The room stayed quiet. Too quiet. The afternoon crawled by. I kept studying, or trying to. Every few minutes I'd feel it, that pull from the wall behind me, like something with gravity. When I finally checked my phone again, it was past 4. The light through the window had gone from white to yellow. I hadn't eaten. I hadn't moved. My notes were still barely a page further than they'd been at noon. And then something else started happening. A smell. Faint at first, like old wood and something sweeter underneath it. Almost floral but wrong, like flowers left in standing water. Then a heaviness in my arms. My eyelids started dragging. My thoughts went slow and thick, like I was trying to think through cold syrup. I felt tired plenty of times studying. This wasn't that. My body temperature dropped. I could feel the cold crawling up through the floorboards. And that's when I heard it. The painting laughed. I know how that sounds. I know exactly how that sounds. But I was awake. I was sitting upright, and I heard it. A woman's laugh, clear and sharp, coming from the wall. My whole body went rigid. Every hair on my arms stood up at the same time. I didn't think. I didn't grab my books or my bag. I was up and out the front door in seconds flat, running across the gravel, stumbling through the dead grass, not once looking back. I hit the road and kept running until I couldn't see the rooftop anymore. And then I stopped, bent over, hands on my knees, and made the mistake of looking back. The house was a dark shape at the end of the road. The sky behind it was already going dark. And standing in the front doorway, just barely visible, was a silhouette. Still, watching me go. I didn't sleep that night. In the morning, I sat my dad down and told him everything. The lost time, the smell, the cold, the laugh, the shadow in the door. He listened without interrupting, which wasn't like him. When I finished, he made a phone call. His friend came over that evening and sat across from us at the kitchen table. He looked tired and a little guilty, like a man who'd been waiting to have a conversation he'd been putting off. He poured himself a glass of water and didn't drink it. Then he started talking. "That's a government house," he said. "Been closed for years. What happened there, well, it doesn't usually reach people in broad daylight." That part surprised me. He paused, choosing his words carefully. A long time ago, a high-ranking official lived there, a city man very powerful. His wife was, by all accounts, extraordinarily beautiful. He was a jealous man, controlling, suspicious of everything and everyone around her. He beat her, regularly, for years. The room got very still. One night, he painted her portrait. Nobody knows why. People in town always said he did it because he wanted to possess her, to have something that would always be his that could never leave. He finished the painting that same night. He set down his glass. And then he killed her. He couldn't take the painting with him after that. Or wouldn't. Either way, it stayed. A few weeks later, the official died in an accident. Some people called it justice. Some people said he never really left either. The man across the table looked at me directly. That painting has been on that wall for a very long time. Every now and then someone goes in there. They always say the same things, the lost time, the cold, the feeling of being watched. But it's never gone this far during daylight hours before. He folded his hands on the table. I covered that painting with a cloth years ago, nailed it to the wall so it'd stay. He looked at my dad. When you all were cleaning the place up to use it, my dad went pale. "I moved the cloth," he said quietly. "I thought it was just a painting." Nobody talked for a while after that. The kitchen clock ticked. Outside, a truck went by on the county road and its headlights swept across the window and then were gone. I kept thinking about the way that silhouette had stood in the doorway. Still, patient, like it had all the time in the world. Like it had been waiting a long time already and didn't mind waiting a little longer. I thought about the hours I couldn't account for. About the page I'd stared at for 4 hours and never read. I thought about that laugh. How clear it was. How certain I'd been in that moment that whatever made that sound was not a trick of wind or old pipes or an exhausted brain playing games. I was a medical student. I believed in what could be measured. And I sat at that kitchen table not knowing what to measure any of this against. I never went back. I finished my exam prep at home, wedged between relatives and wedding chaos and all of it, and I didn't care anymore, not after the house. My sister's wedding came and went. She was happy. The exam came. I did okay, not great, not the score I'd been chasing, but enough. I told myself that was fine, that I was fine. I almost believed it, except for one thing. A few months later, I was telling a college friend the story over the phone. The house, the painting, the laugh. And I was mid-sentence when I realized something I hadn't put together before. In all those hours I sat in that room, for 7 full days, I never once remembered to look at what the woman in the painting was wearing. I called my dad's friend. Was there anything unusual about the portrait? I asked. He was quiet for a moment. Yes, he said. She was painted with her hands behind her back. I asked why that was unusual. Another pause. Because her hands were always behind her back, he said. In every story anyone ever told, but nobody who'd been inside that room before you ever noticed that. I didn't know what to say. What does that mean? He took a long breath. It means she wasn't posing, he said. She was bound. If you made it through that one, drop a comment below telling me. Would you have gone back on day 8? Because I honestly don't know the answer myself. Like and subscribe so you never miss a story, and I'll see you in the next one, if you're brave enough.